to provide for the organization, please continue to collect that amount on our behalf. And here is, you've estimated what you think the revenue is going to be. Here's our other revenue, and kind of here's our ballpark based on our different funds, our expenditures. It's not typically very detailed, but within the Ohio Revised Code, the laws, it essentially says that this organization or this group, the Tax Budget Commission, these three individuals, can determine the need of a government entity based on the information that they're providing. So it's extremely unheard of and very rare that a tax budget commission would say, hey, you don't need the millage that voters have approved on your behalf.
Okey-doke. Very good presentation.
Yeah, and then thank you. One last one, just to kind of talk about the types of millage. So there's your voted mills, and then there's the effective mills. So the millage that, even though you voted for 2.6, what does that mean? Because, you're looking at values going back to, what the property tax values were in 1986, were in year 2000 and 2013. They don't equal 2.6 mils. Currently the effective mills for us are almost 1.8 mils. So our voted versus effective is about 70% of what that is and that revenue that it brings in. So that's why I put the comparison to Lake County and Cleveland Metro Parks. So Lake County just increased their millage from 2.8 mils to 3.2. And it shows what the effective millage is to their voted millage. So they're about 80%. Cleveland Metro Parks, they have voted mills of 2.7. Their effective is almost 2.5. So they're doing pretty good with about 90% of their collections. So what does that mean? I showed the revenues coming in, and then what the impact would be for that amount of effective millage, because it's the effective millage that's actually collected, because it's that point in time thanks to that House Bill 920. So a ton of numbers out there. And then it's the estimated amount for if you have a $100,000 home. Many properties are not 100,000, so like the average, if it's $250,000, you can do the equation, but you can just see what we're collecting on our millage, or what we're collecting as compared to the two other counties. So that's what I have for revenues. Next one, I'll talk about expenditures.
Thank you, Jen. Any other questions for Jen? Go ahead and move on in the agenda. Next item on the agenda, new business, quarterly presentation by park staff. Mr. Paul Pura, the park biologist, you're up.
Okay. Well, thank you, John, for giving me a few minutes of your time. Thank you, Ward, for listening. Paul Pura, Natural Resource Supervisor, biologist for the Park District. Thought I'd talk a little bit about what we're up to here. Just recently, last week, things are waking up, of course, in the parks, and everybody's out and sure enjoying things. We have some animals here I brought up that are in the wetlands breeding right now, and so I thought I'd talk a little bit again about kind of balancing, human use and again wildlife. Those are really the two things obviously we are very concerned with here at our district. Take our job very seriously. So. This balance and principles for us are, natural resource management. We want healthy ecosystems, and the bottom line is, in general, I like to manage for the more biodiversity, the better in our parks. And again, just quickly, I wasn't sure. I think we've talked about this before, maybe at my last talk a few months ago. Biodiversity, that's used a lot these days, but it refers to all life on Earth, from genes all the way up to ecosystems and the Earth itself. We have plenty of great systems and biodiversity in Geauga County is wonderful. We have these beautiful forests, and of course, wetlands are packed with biodiversity. We have interesting ledges out at Walton's Gorge that are so fun to go and look at. But there's one here that I want to kind of concentrate this morning on, and that's meadow habitat. And it's a great place for biodiversity, and we manage them a lot here at the Park District. And I want to get into why and kind of those reasons, and I actually hope maybe in a little bit we'll have some time to talk about what you folks can do here at home for biodiversity as well. So why do we manage for biodiversity for these meadows, these cool places in the park? Well, number one, they're pretty nice to look at. People like pretty things when they come to the parks, right? This is Observatory Park, some plants that we did seed, and those are great for people to come and see. It also helps us. We have a lot of land, over 10,000 acres of land, for relatively, few folks that are going to be out there managing, and it cuts down on our time for managing those parks, and mowing those can take some time, and I want to get into one particular tool that we use that really helps us here in a little bit. I'll show you what we did actually last week we started. But it reduces this kind of work. Oftentimes we do have disturbed areas where we put in park infrastructure, or we have a restoration project and we want to put that back to a more natural state and manage for biodiversity. And so we'll put in a nice native grasses and forbs, wildflowers. Also, we want to, at times, set back nature. We want to set back succession, so we'll keep areas from turning into shrubs and tree habitat. And of course, the number one thing, like I touched on, is we're managing for wildlife. These are great places for pollinators, are big in the news lately, and important for that kind of habitat, birds, insects, that kind of thing. Meadows, so like I said, we've taken, at times, and I'll show you some nice photos, we've taken properties that we've acquired, and some of them have been in farmland for many, many years. We can take those meadows, or those farm fields, I should say, and turn them into these native meadows. And it takes about a year, maybe 2 years of preparation time, and then that's how we go about it. But interesting, people ask me a lot of times, why native plants, and this is kind of a cool graph here. I don't know if you can see it on, I have a pointer. This is depth in feet. This is 14 feet down here. These native prairie plants have these crazy root systems that go all the way down to 12, 14, 15 feet down in the soil. And so one of the techniques we use, and I'll touch on it here, is that, and they ask me, well, how come fire doesn't hurt these native plants? And you can see why. They have all these root systems way down in the soil. I like showing that. Observatory Park, here's one quick example. This is seeding and a project we did in 2015-16. We had quite a few acres there that were old farm fields for many, many years. And we wanted to do something with them and create some nice habitat. So we prepped it for a couple of seasons. In 2016, we put out seed. We bought seed from a native supplier in Hiram. Ohio Prairie Nursery is a great little nursery in Hiram. And we have a really nice tractor and drill, no-till drill that we put in the seed. Just drop it, kind of barely scratching the surface. And here's the plants we put in, and then we manage it. So that it takes time. We mowed it a few times to keep the bad seeds, the weeds from reproducing, and then we started using fire in the parks. And people often are a little shocked sometimes that we're going to use fire in a park. That's a picture, I think that's it. That one's at Burton Wetlands, but fire is ideal for some of these areas because, like I said, number one, it cuts down on our time. We can burn a field 10 acres in an hour, not even. It would take a long time for us to brush hog that field. So we can get a lot done. It sets back all the woody plants, the shrubs and trees. It'll kill them quite often. It also releases nutrients in the soil. So those plants, the good plants, we want to encourage respond to all those nutrients. And it often stimulates some of the seed and the other good plants. Now let's see if technology is going to work for us here. I had a little video for you guys to see. This is Observatory Park, a couple years ago. They get quite large, and we were out at Swine Creek last Thursday, but it's a great tool that we use, and the meadows quickly green up. This is Observatory, that same field, and within just a